Imagine this. You are the most powerful person on earth. You command armies of millions. Your word is law across an empire so vast that the sun never sets on your land. You own palaces of gold. You dine on food that common people have never even seen. When you speak, nations tremble. And then one day you meet someone, not a queen, not a princess, not someone your advisors chose for you, just a woman who laughs at your jokes, a woman who sees you not the crown, not the throne, not the power, but you. And suddenly, all of it, the empire, the armies, the gold, feels like dust in your hands. This is not a fairy tale. This is not a movie. This is the true story of a man who gave up everything for love. His name was Edward, and in 1936 he did something no king had ever done before. He gave up his throne for a woman. To understand this story, you must first understand the world Edward was born into. The year is 1894. Britain is the most powerful empire in human history. It stretches from Canada to India, from Africa to Australia. The British king is not just a ruler, he is a symbol, a living god, some would say. The Church of England, the government, the military, the people, everyone looks to the king for strength, for tradition, for identity. Edward was born into this world as a prince, not just any prince, the Prince of Wales, the heir, the future king. From the moment he opened his eyes, his life was planned. Every meal, every lesson, every handshake was designed to create the perfect monarch. He learned history, politics, military strategy. He learned to speak with authority, to walk with dignity, to never show weakness. But there was a problem. Edward was different. While his father, King George V, was stiff and serious, Edward was charming and emotional. While his father believed in duty above all, Edward believed in something else. He believed in feeling, in connection, in the idea that life should be lived, not just endured. The British royal family did not approve of feelings. Feelings were dangerous. Feelings were messy. Feelings made kings weak. So Edward learned to hide his. He smiled at parties. He shook hands with politicians. He wore the uniforms and played the part. But inside, he was lonely. Terribly, deeply lonely. In 1931, Edward was 37 years old. He had never married. This was unusual for a prince. His family had introduced him to princesses, duchesses, aristocrats from every corner of Europe. Beautiful women, rich women, powerful women. But Edward felt nothing, until one night at a party in London, he met her. Her name was Wallis Simpson. She was not British. She was American from Baltimore, a city far across the ocean. She was not young. She was not a virgin. She was not even single. She was married to a second husband, a British businessman named Ernest Simpson. By every standard of the British royal family, Wallis Simpson was completely, utterly unsuitable. But Edward did not see unsuitable. He saw a woman with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. A woman who spoke her mind. A woman who did not bow or curtsy or pretend. A woman who treated him like a man, not a monarch. And Edward fell. Not slowly, not carefully. He fell completely. Within months, he was obsessed. He sent her flowers every day. He called her constantly. He invited her to his private parties, his private dinners, his private world. The British press knew about the relationship, but they were forbidden by the government, by tradition, by fear to publish a single word. The British people did not know that their future king was in love with a married American woman. But the people who mattered, the politicians, the church leaders, the royal family, they knew, and they were terrified. In January 1936, King George V died. Edward was now King Edward VIII. The coronation, the ceremony where he would officially become king, was planned for later that year. The empire prepared to celebrate. The people cheered their handsome young king. But Edward had only one thing on his mind: Wallis. He wanted to marry her. He wanted to marry her. He wanted to make her his queen. And here is where the story becomes a crisis. The Church of England, the official church of the British monarchy, did not allow divorced people to remarry while their former spouses were still alive. Wallis had 2 living ex-husbands. By church law, Edward could not marry her. But Edward did not care about church law. The British government, led by Prime Minister Stanley Baldwin, told Edward the truth. If he married Wallis, the government would resign. The people would not accept her. The empire would fracture. The Dominions, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, all said they would not accept Wallis as queen. Edward had a choice. Choice 1, give up Wallis. Marry a proper princess. Be king. Rule the empire. Live the life he was born to live. Choice 2, give up the throne. Marry Wallis. Lose everything. Every advisor, every politician, every member of his family begged him to choose the throne. Think of your duty, they said. Think of your country, they said. Think of history, they said. Edward thought, and then he made his decision. On December 11, 1936, Edward spoke to the British people, not as king, as a man. He sat before a microphone. His hands were shaking. His voice was steady. He said these words: "I have found it impossible to carry the heavy burden of responsibility and to discharge my duties as king as I would wish to do without the help and support of the woman I love." 11 months. He had been king for only 11 months, and now he was giving it up. Forever. The speech was broadcast around the world. In London, people stopped in the streets to listen. In India, in Canada, in Australia, millions heard their king say goodbye. Not because of war, not because of scandal, because of love. After the speech, Edward left Britain. He would never live there again. He became the Duke of Windsor, a title without power, without purpose, without meaning. He married Wallis in France in a small ceremony with no royal family present. The Church of England refused to bless the marriage. For the rest of his life, Edward wandered. He lived in Paris, in New York, in the Bahamas. He gave speeches no one cared about. He wrote books no one read. He attended parties where people whispered behind his back. He had given up an empire for a woman, and the world never forgave him for it. But what about Wallis? History has not been kind to her. The British people blamed her for stealing their king. The press called her a witch, a seductress, a schemer. She was called the woman who brought down a monarchy. But was she? Wallis never asked Edward to give up the throne. In fact, she tried to leave him. Twice, she told him to forget her, to find a proper queen, to do his duty. Edward refused. He chose her again and again. Every day. For 35 years, they lived together in exile. They fought. They argued. They struggled with money and meaning and identity. Edward was never happy. He was never satisfied. He missed his country. He missed his family. He missed being important. But he never left her. And she never left him. In 1972, Edward died. Wallis was by his side. She lived for 14 more years, alone, forgotten, buried in a simple grave in England, the country that had rejected her. Their love story was not perfect. It was messy, it was selfish, it was complicated, but it was real, and it changed history. Now, let's look at some important words from this story. These are words you can use in your own English. 1. Abdication. This is the act of giving up a throne or position of power. Edward's abdication shocked the world. When someone abdicates, they officially say, "I quit." You can also abdicate responsibility. That means you refuse to do something you should do, Example, the CEO abdicated his position after the scandal. 2. Suitable. This means appropriate or right for a particular situation. Wallis was considered unsuitable to be queen because she was divorced. If something is suitable, it fits. Example, this restaurant is not suitable for children. It is too expensive. 3. Obsessed. When you cannot stop thinking about something or someone, you are obsessed. Edward was obsessed with Wallis. This word can be positive or negative. Example, she is obsessed with learning English she practices every day. 4. Terrified. Extremely frightened. The British government was terrified that Edward would marry Wallis, not just worried, terrified. Example, I was terrified. Example, I was terrified to speak English in front of my class. 5. Discharge. To perform a duty or responsibility. Edward said he could not discharge his duties as king without Wallis. It also means to release someone from a job or hospital. Example, the soldier was discharged from the army after his injury. 6. Exile. When you are forced to live away from your home country. Edward lived in exile for the rest of his life. He could not return to Britain. Example, the writer lived in exile for 20 years because the government did not like his books. 7. Scandal. An action or event that causes public anger or shock. Edward's love for Wallis was a huge scandal. Scandals often involve famous people. Example, the politician's scandal destroyed his career. 8. Duty. A moral or legal obligation. Edward's family told him to think of his duty to his country. Duty is what you should do, even if you don't want to. Example, it is my duty to help my parents when they are old. 9. Coronation. The ceremony where a king or queen is officially crowned. Edward never had his coronation. He became king, but he was never crowned. Example, millions of people watched the coronation on television. 10. Monarchy. A system of government where a king or queen is the head of state. Britain is a monarchy. The United States is not. Example, the monarchy has existed in Britain for over 1,000 years. Edward's story forces us to ask a question. What is more important, duty or love? Edward chose love, and history punished him for it. But did he make the wrong choice? Think about this. Edward was king for 11 months. He was miserable. He was trapped in a life he never wanted. The crown was heavy. The expectations were crushing. With Wallis, he was free. He was himself. He was himself. He was a man, not a symbol. Was that worth an empire? I don't know the answer, but I know this. Edward's story teaches us that love is not always easy. It is not always happy, but it is always powerful. And here is something else. Edward gave up his throne because he could not imagine a life without the person he loved. He chose connection over power. He chose feeling over tradition. In a world that tells us to be practical, to be careful, to protect ourselves, Edward's choice, right or wrong, reminds us that the heart has its own logic. Now, let's practice. I want you to try using these words in your own sentences. Pause the video and write, one thing you would never abdicate, something you will never give up. A person or thing you are obsessed with, a duty you have in your life right now, something that would make you terrified. Write your answers in the comments below. I will read them. I will reply. This is how you practice. This is how you grow. Edward and Wallis are gone now. Their love story is history. Some call it beautiful, some call it foolish, but no one calls it boring. Because love that changes history is never boring. If this story moved you, if it made you think, if it made you feel, hit that like button. Let the algorithm know that stories like this matter. And if you want more history that awakens your English, subscribe to Awakening Avenue. We don't just tell stories. We make you feel them. We make you learn from them. We make you better. Drop a comment. Would you give up everything for love, or is duty more important? Until next time, keep learning, keep feeling, keep awakening.